Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into an incredible and, frankly, deeply concerning story. We are unpacking exactly how a system designed to protect millions in public faith and donations was systematically infiltrated from the inside. We're going to reveal the systemic corruption behind one of the most high-profile temple donation thefts we've seen. Millions of people stand in line for hours, driven by pure faith. They're donating parts of their hard-earned income. We're talking farmers sharing their harvest profits, laborers giving whatever they can for answered prayers. But instead of reaching its intended destination, massive chunks of this money were just siphoned off. So how does a vault protected by state-of-the-art security, 1,600 cameras, and bank auditors actually get robbed? Well, let's dissect exactly how these systemic loopholes made this massive heist possible.
Now, what's really chilling about this whole thing? It wasn't some sudden, unforeseeable crime. Not at all. Back in November 2020, which was just 7 months after the trust was formed and construction began, top officials actually brought in a private audit firm to review their processes, and their written warning was incredibly blunt. They said the management was highly unprofessional, and without systematic records or secondary checks, theft and inappropriate transactions would absolutely occur. So what happened to this crucial, glaring warning? It was completely buried. No standard operating procedures were published, no internal audits were maintained, the stage for the heist was officially set.
And just to immediately give you a sense of the sheer scale of what happened once that warning was ignored, consider this staggering number. When the theft was finally busted, investigators recovered over $2 million in cash and foreign currency. And where did they find it? Literally at the home of a low-level employee who officially took home a salary of just $200 a month. So yeah, this wasn't petty theft. This was a highly lucrative, organized operation stealing directly from the public.
Section 1. Faith, Trust, and Betrayal.
To really understand this, we have to look at the daily operations. We're talking an average of 8 to 13 lakh rupees pouring in every single day, and that skyrocketed during festivals. But the core systemic flaw that enabled absolutely everything else was this: the autonomous trust. When the government created the trust to manage the temple, they made it autonomous. Now, 12 of the 15 members were government-nominated, including former principal secretaries and political figures. Yet it operated exactly like a private entity. Imagine that. This created a massive blind spot for public accountability. The public could donate millions, but legally they had zero right to use the Right to Information Act to ask where a single cent went.
Section 2. The Insider Syndicate.
So, the trust actually signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the State Bank of India to handle the cash professionally. The bank was supposed to conduct proper interviews, right? Hire qualified personnel. But instead, immense pressure was applied from the inside to bypass standard hiring completely. You had Manish Yadav, a driver's nephew, put on cash counting. Anukalp Mishra, who was related to a core trust member, was handed voucher preparation, and Tinu Yadav, a personal driver, was given direct access to the strong room and cash transport. They weren't hired for their skills, they were installed based entirely on loyalty and connections.
On paper, this place looked like Fort Knox. You had 50 staff in the room, overseen by bank and audit teams, with 1,600 CCTV cameras monitoring the compound. But the reality? Almost half the counting staff, 24 people, were insider hires placed via those nepotism recommendations. That massive camera network we just mentioned, managed by one single trusted officer who mysteriously avoided mandatory job transfers for 17 years. Even basic rules created to stop theft, like making staff wear pocketless clothing, were intentionally ignored. The security was just a complete illusion.
Section 3. Anatomy of the Heist.
Okay, so with their people in place and the cameras mapped out, how did they actually steal the money? At first, they just blocked cameras and stuffed 500 rupee bundles right into their pockets. But when extra guards were added, they had to adapt, and they came up with the 120-note bundle trick. When sorting mixed cash into standard 100-note bundles, the packers would secretly stuff 120 notes into the stack. Next, the insider clerk would log it on the official voucher as exactly 100 notes. So a bundle officially logged as 50,000 rupees actually held 60,000. The transporters then simply pocketed the extra 20 notes en route to the bank. It was a perfect closed loop where the ledgers never ever showed a mismatch.
Section 4. The Hidden Camera Bust.
The unraveling finally began in March of 2026. The bank flagged suspicious drops in certain denominations and actually suggested replacing the entire accounting staff. Well, the trust flat out refused. So frustrated bank officials basically went rogue. They secretly installed hidden cameras in the counting room's blind spots. When they reviewed that footage on June 4th, they were shocked. It clearly showed staff intentionally blocking the main CCTVs while others shoved cash bundles into their clothes. By June 13th, a special investigation team raided the area and literally found 5.5 lakh rupees stashed inside the counting room's adjoining washroom.
The raids revealed just how long, and honestly how successfully, this syndicate had been operating. Just look at the insane contrast between their humble salaries and their discovered assets. Lavkush Mishra, earning just 12,000 rupees a month, was building a 2-story house and had 10 lakh rupees hidden in a literal pile of cow dung. Tinu Yadav, the former auto driver earning 20,000 rupees, was found with documents for a 50 crore property, a luxury SUV, and hotel shares. And Avinash Shukla, the clerk making 22,000 rupees, he was sitting on over $2 million in cash and global currency. No way you get that from a basic salary.
But the moment the bust happened, a massive cover-up operation kicked into gear. This wasn't just low-level panic. This was highly coordinated, pointing directly to systemic complicity from much higher up. Rules mandated 180 days of CCTV footage be stored. Instead, investigators found that 7 to 8 months of footage was permanently deleted, gone. The syndicate's WhatsApp chats wiped clean. Mobile phones were formatted. And remember that CCTV maintenance officer who hadn't been transferred in 17 years? The exact second the investigation started, he was abruptly transferred to another city.
Section 5. Land flips and missing gold. Now, through a massive public donation drive, the trust had collected around 151 crore rupees to buy land. But consider this specific, unbelievable deal. 2 individuals bought a piece of land for 2 crore rupees. Exactly 10 minutes later, and I mean 10 minutes, not months, not days, they sold that exact same piece of land to the eponymous trust for 18.5 crore rupees. Whistleblowers have highlighted multiple deals just like this, asking a very simple, very valid question. Whose pockets were being lined by an instantaneous 16.5 crore markup?
And it wasn't just real estate. Multiple sources and whistleblowers have reported massive amounts of physical devotion just disappearing before ever hitting the official ledgers. We're talking 200 kilograms of silver bricks from the Sindhi community, a 3-kilogram silver necklace, a 1-kilogram gold shoe, and none of them were issued receipts. A former accounts manager publicly reported seeing 10 chests of silver jewelry removed without any accounting, and by the way, he was fired shortly after complaining about it. There is even an active investigation into fears that real gold jewelry placed on deities was secretly replaced with fake duplicates.
Section 6. The Accountability Crisis.
So when the special investigation team finally wrapped up its preliminary report on this massive, coordinated theft, who did they hand it to? Get this. They submitted their findings to an additional chief secretary who concurrently sits on the very trust being investigated. It is a glaring conflict of interest. The lower-level staff, the drivers, the nephews, they faced FIRs and were sent to jail. But the systemic decision-makers, the people who bypassed the hiring rules and ignored the initial audit warnings in the first place, are effectively in a position to review the investigation into their own system.
So what is the core takeaway of this explainer? It's simple. Without institutional transparency, public funds will always remain vulnerable. To actually fix this, experts are suggesting several systemic solutions. First, remove that autonomous shield. If public money is involved, the Right to Information Act must apply so citizens can ask questions. Second, mandatory independent audits absolutely must be published on a public website every year. Third, establish a real-time public dashboard tracking every single donation and land expenditure. And finally, the people depositing the cash must be hired through a completely separate independent process, far away from the influence of the trust's management.
We're going to end today's explainer on this provocative thought. When low-level clerks are caught with millions, they rarely operate in a vacuum. Public money demands public accountability. So, who is actually protecting the masterminds behind the nepotism and the wiped evidence? And will this trust, built on the pure faith of millions, finally be forced to open its books? It's a question that really leaves us pondering the true devastating cost of unchecked institutional autonomy. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep asking the tough questions.